Sanje Judan Sanje Junala Shanja Pada Dana Jadam Abhishan Sojibe Sana Lola Vinju Sanje Java Shu Sanje Judan Sanje Junala Josam Je Daga Shanto Jibe Sana Lola Vinju Sanje Java Shu Sanje Judan Sanje Junala Shanje Pada Dana Jadam Daga Shanto Jibe Sana Lola Vinju Sanje Java. Okay. That's good. Facial camera. Hey. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Bring me Mark. You are here? You want to come here? Okay. My voice very loud. The airplane is very loud. Can you guys hear? Yeah, right. Anyway, so wonderful. We skipped last week. I have some other things to do with religions and barefoot. And we start again. And then as I always mention, we need to, so why I'm studying Buddhism, what purpose? Usually now, the religions, we have all different religions in the world. It gives people a wish, some the goals, right? Some religion believe the God, they say, okay, what God say, you follow that. And some Buddhism, it's like Buddhism, we say Buddha say, but not just follow that. But to check yourself or investigation yourself, makes sense or not. Anyway, the one purpose to goal, everyone looking for religion, something we cannot do ourselves, and we looking for something else to help beyond our knowledge, but beyond our knowledge. And as Buddhism is not only this life, we say, until enlightenment, when we enlighten, we say, when we become enlightened, we're the enlightened person. You can say like that. Enlightenment means when you know everything, as you put something, your mala, you put here, you can see what color, even we don't know how many bits, but you know what colors. You can see everything, all the things. You can call them there. Stop. Anyway, enlightenment is what? First, knowing all the things, same as you put mala here. Right now, door closed, we don't see outside of what. Right? We close eyes, we don't see anything. Therefore, it shows we are not enlightened. One, let's say, evident. Another evident, when you don't have any delusions. Do we have delusions? Mark, are you have delusions? You sure? What kind of delusion?
Oh, I mean, like seeing things as inherently existent.
No, it's not. We have angry, touch me, jealous, get mad, easily say we get mad. Even, yeah. We say everything exists in land, very subtle ones. don't really feel that things. Those things we don't really feel. It doesn't bother us. Main things, attachment, anger, jealous, hatred, those things. When we have that, it shows we are not enlightened. When you never ever get also we have a lot of discrimination. When you don't have any discrimination, you see everything's like same, all the human beings, then you are enlightened. Okay? Someone said, when I become enlightened, well, I don't know, maybe it's something we don't really find. It's very easy. If you know everything above that, you don't have any stressful. You can say maybe very strong. Simple way, we don't have any stressful any time, then you're enlightened. Okay? Therefore, in order to that, then we need to study. Anything like we want to do, we need to know. In order to, we need to study. Otherwise, if we know the true things, it shows patience. Okay. You practice patience. Like that. Then how we free from the sufferings, all those things, through the study, through the meditation. Oh, namaste. Through the study, through the practice, through the meditation. Therefore, we learn from that. Right? And how, when we Sunday study or Sunday class, we talk about for the angry or hater, how destroy for our daily life, how destroy our friends, families. We know that, then it's able to stop that, able to catch that. If someone doing the wrong things, if you don't know, you don't recognize, then you never stop. Or you think, oh, what I'm doing is right. Therefore, it's good to identify all the false delusions. When you find false delusions, ignorance, then be able to get out or be able to bind them. Therefore, study is very important. As Lama Tsongkhapa said, first you need to hear many times, not only one time. But the second, you need to also combine what the meanings practice. Then third, also practice day or night. Combine means, you say, okay, this book said that, this book said, you need to know how to put all things together. Anyway, when we say Kurukulla Lama Tsongkhapa, also sublime practice. You do group, group puja, also they have sublime practice. We do Tara puja, they also sublime practice. When we medicine puja, they also sublime practice, right? Therefore, they're all same.
Different deities.
Different deities. Contact with practice with different deities. But what do is same action? We say, okay, this is only Tara, it's not like that. We need to know that, those things. Okay? If you think well like that, I really mentioned when Lama Adisha came to Tibet, there one 아니 조지 다 지난번에는 가 용거에 들어왔어. 지난번에 별로 요는데 가 용거가 캠에 들어왔어. 오늘 쉬고 거기는 꽤 무슨 캐바들이었어.
There was a Lama, in Tibet at the time when Lama Adisha came to Tibet, and he was very learned. And so Lama Atisha was surprised, how knowledgeable he was, and he said, if there was such a knowledgeable, learned person like you here, I didn't have to come here.
아니 드네 냠내 제단 가시오 그래 아니 샤주 냠내 제단치 셔주는 배는 땅아 배는 나 도냠내 제단 사실 나 냠내 사실 야 나라 지데 뭐 지데 소카가 냠내 제단 고소 캄바카카 고소야.
There's so there's a different sort of sets of practices, and according to the Vinaya Sutra, and according to the Tantra, and even in Tantra there are like different level or classes of Tantra, like the action Tantra, performance Tantra, yoga Tantra, and so forth.
얘가 드네 집에 가라야 아니 니마치 조직이야. 단도와를 가려다 가니 세워버려. 여기 냠내 제단 카카 아니 같이 해서 어떤 때는 돈 냠내 제단에서 내가 냠내 제단 내 샤주지 카카를 아니 저기 다 I don't know this better somebody.
And so he was explaining, these different practices for different deities and different tantras. And so this is for the practice for the sutra. This is practice for the tantra. This for the action tantra, performance tantra, like that. And then Lama Atisha saw that there was some mistakes that he was making, and then he felt like, oh, then now I see there's some benefit for me to come here.
어떻게 저번에 나눠서 그냥 가들라지도나 저 연락된 연락해도 너무 쳐버리나요? 나 연락된 연락 걸도 멜라나라도 도쇼나라 나중에 제가 강가도 제가 이거를 온데 멜라던 버는데 멜레게 연락된 버는데 가들라지도 가요 말 연락된 버 집어지 자신.
And so there's a same kind of practice. Right? It's like a 7-limb practice, like when you're doing the Lamsong of Guru Yoga, it's a 7-limb practice. And when you do the Guru Puja, a 7-limb practice. And when you do the medicine Buddha Puja, it's also 7-limb practice. There's no different 7-limb practice for medicine Buddha and different 7-limb practice for the Lamsong of Guru Yoga and so forth.
어떻게도 하고 그래. 그도 참아 집에 하고 자시와나 아니 이거도 냠내 따다 용 그래.
These are the things that we have to understand, and then if we are able to put them together, and then we understand the essence of the practice.
그래서 그 저가 측만하고시 단위제다 말하고 망용마도시 집어지야.
So there could be different terms used for the same meaning, different terms, different wording, and maybe there's more wordings instead of one verse of offering. There could be like 2-3 verses of offering, just for the offering, like that. So there can be different like that, but in the meaning of the 7-limb, it's all the same. Like starting with the prostration, offering, and confession,
아니 지세야로
the rejoicing,
지세야로 아니 중국어 그러면라.
then the requesting to teach the Dharma.
예, 그러니까 감사하다. 지세야로 그래서
So Kushin and so on.
뭐래.
我的去那个确实上是过在的，所以我的不是不是说。
아니 어디 냐면도 써왔다 보네. 아니 티오들 지세야로.
So there's requesting, to teach, and then requesting to not pass into parinirvana, and then the 7th one is the dedication.
네. 아이 바이가. 너무세가. 아자. 제자 이제 다들 둘러배 내가 지금 참을 거리는 이만 딱 제대로 와.
Those are the practices that we always do, right?
이제 샤사사의 기적고를 해서教育的呀기적고 데려와.
The prostration, is paying homage or respect, showing respect.
기적대와 밀어 기적이나 아니 밀어 죽고 거라. 텔레지는 소설로 캡사 먹으라 그러와.
If you have respect in others, then you will heed or listen to them, right? And then you will gain many knowledge from them.
가대 가서 명백한 얘기와.
Like you heed or listen to the doctors, right?
아니 너스도 간 얘기와.
Nurses.
Not the people listen you. The hospital. The patients listen you.
Yeah, sometimes.
No, maybe you didn't give them good advice. Then they can't. 아니
listen, I wouldn't be there.
간단 가서 샷 잡았다 기적이래 기적.
Yeah, prostration is paying respect.
진짜 기적 요사가 미팅 가서 찍으래. 미팅 때나 미팅을 잡자다 가서 냠설래니 수라 팽거 와.
If you have respect, then you will regard the person and will heed, or pay attention to his or her advices, and then will receive the benefits from doing that.
그러나 가로 라메 실럽 체다 중이라마이라는 말스. 라마 실럽 체고도 수수고 대화다. 나나 야무나 이체를 하래 그랬을 때는 와.
Or how much blessing you're going to receive from the guru, it depends on how much respect you pay to the guru, and so how much more respect you pay, more attention you will give also. More those instructions you will carry on or obey, and that way you will receive more blessings.
어제 다 이렇게 찍지 산이 대지어 좀 이바지대. 제니가 집어지는 데는 다 데를 믿으라 똑같이 말해. 걔 요 말하대.
So therefore, it is said that blessing, whether you receive great or small blessing, depends on your respect towards the guru, not how high they realize the guru is. And so, if you pay respect to the same guru, then you receive all the blessings. Otherwise, if you go to one guru today, go to another guru tomorrow, and then you keep changing like that without any respect, then you will never get any blessings.
이게 뭐는 때쪽으로 와. 이나 찍으려는 따뜻한 거 말다가.
Of course, you can have many gurus. You can definitely rely on many gurus, but if you say, oh, this is not good, and you give up on that one, and then you go and look for another one like that, that's not good.
내가 데릴라 똑같이 말해.
That way, you're never going to get any realization.
세상 고신이 돼서 놀아야나 타만 놀아서 남중도 나 남배 추는라고 그래.
So if you don't get the realization of the guru devotion, then you will not get any of the following realizations.
그래서 네 데리게 걔가 담보 때마다 걔가 다치 야보치. 그래서 제일 안에 야보대 담보서 그래.
So if you mess up with the realization of guru devotion, then you will mess up with all the realizations. And so therefore, it is very important first to analyze, check on the guru, and then once you are certain that that's the guru that you want to rely on, then you should firmly rely on him.
근데 제가 안에 샤트와 다 보대오지나 같이 기적 쳐와서 기적 여왔나 다 밑에 여러 소소미 여러 특별히 아니 소소가 맞아야 맞잖아 그래.
And so anyway, prostration is to respect. So when you respect another person, then you will listen to the person, and you will gain knowledge from that person. And also, you will, of course, overcome your arrogance when you respect to others.
되지. 아니 안 줘봐서 돼. 또 줘봐서 쳐와나 아니 쇼치는 소소 녀모가 세는 게 녀모도 그래.
Then the offering is it counteracts the delusion, miserliness.
아니 대고 손놈한테는 마음바나 소소치까지 또그 땀딱 가로 되게 마음바 되게 강에 맞춰와 용 그래.
And you accumulate merit, from the practice of offerings and generosity, and as a result of that, you will have plenty of possessions, food, clothing, and so forth.
맨담성도 야차 추피는 사진을 주동해. 아직 비가 나는데 제가 도 하려고 도 하면서.
So sometimes people say like, where you make a water bowl offering, right? Water offering, because Buddhas don't drink, they don't get thirsty.
이나가도 배를 추 연락 된데서 배매도 추듯이 땀아야 보여. 근데도 저도 자갈로 소리가. 같이 대표하는 것도 출라 세나시라고 말. 내가 인자 아니 그 배가 이거는 따다로.
Like in Tibet, the water is very good quality coming from the mountains. So it's very good quality, very clean, very light, and very cooling, and so forth. So all these different qualities of the water to quench the thirst. And therefore, if you make an offering of such a good quality water, then you create more merit.
강상상 강해야 되나 대가야 소수고 놈어봐 뚜먹기 내버려 있어봐.
And then making an offering of a clean water, very clear, without any like mud or anything. So make it like very filtered, very clean water, and that also helps to clear our mind for our delusions. Then also making offerings of the light, like water lamp or candlelight or electric light, whatever light kind of light you make, that is also becomes antidote to like the delusions, to dispel the darkness of ignorance.
그때 가도 통돼야 되고 다때 많이 딱까지 저기 주변이 뭐야 그거 자외라 뭐이 아니 까나지 저바나다 줘봐 야소로 되는 거죠.
So those are the physical obvious physical offerings, but then the best offering is an offering of one's practice. So what does it mean is like following the advice of the guru and doing the practice just as it's been advised by the guru. So if you do that, then that becomes the best offering.
샤다가 줘봤지. 아니 샤바다 디올라 샤바 소소 링아여선지 먹여봐 가르스 대양라 때 톱시단데 그래 샤바이나 니 받아 다 열어.
Then the next one is the confession. Confession is where you purify the negativities created through your body, speech, and mind with the four opponent powers.
Jesus. 다 되네 안에 하다 연지까지 내가 야보 제발라 가고 받으래.
Then the fourth one is rejoicing in the good deeds of oneself and others.
아니 되네 가와데 바로 이제 고지. 고지는 아니 다 되게 소소까지 대바여서 라마들이야. 아니 소소가 셈이야. 나 가디나네서 딱 개개도 맞아와시. 개개 이름 보시. 그래서 이름 보시고 주다가도 놓치지 와.
Vale.
주도로지까지 주셔로지만 말하나 아니 아시아 좋아요 말대.
Then the next one is requesting the guru to teach. So you have to request the gurus to teach, otherwise they will not teach.
내들이 줬는데 그거 잠도도 벌려서 인지 야 쇼고 대 마시나 막 아무튼 마시는 라바이나 나도 대 산지 가던 가도.
And so so some people when they request for refuge vows, you have to request. You have to make a request for the vows. The guru cannot say, okay, I'm going to give you refuge vows. You have to take it. You can't say like that. If the guru does that, then he or she's going against the rules. In the Tibetan culture or tradition, the request has to be done several times. The guru will not, of course, guru is also, will be someone who is very humble, down to earth, and say, oh no, I don't have such knowledge. I'm just a normal, ordinary person. I don't have that ability to give you vows or teachings. And then, so that's just to show, how much interest, the student really has. And maybe guru might be feeling like that too, but then the student has to see that and then make several requests again. No, please teach again, like that. So sometimes they have to request for like 3 or 4 times before the guru will accept to teach. Once you have made the request to teach the Dharma, then the teacher guru becomes your teacher, and then request the guru to live for a long time, to be able to enjoy the teachings from the guru. Then the 7th one is the dedication, dedicating all the merits that you have accumulated by doing any kind of practice, and also you can dedicate the merits of other beings, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all beings can dedicate all those merits for oneself to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So if you dedicate in that way, then that becomes the best dedication.
어제 대대 던조는 일단 남중하고 야랑지면 가지고 배는 가들라저는 내마이나 마칼레 명기 내기 특수 된다 선부 단기 제바이나 아니 대하고 싶어요.
And so as we recite, the Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga prayers, it would be good, to contemplate or think as you recite, the each verses of the 7 hymns.
아니 가든 냠내도 전에 들이 서로 가래 되네 양 때는 공접 삼아라 밤에 양 때. 어떻게 제고서로.
So when you engage in more extensive practice of the Lama Tsongkhapa Buddha Yoga, then as you recite each verse, and like the verse of prostration, then you do the prostrations, or contemplate, and imagine or visualize doing the prostration like that, and paying, offering prostration to all the gurus, in the merit field and so forth. So like you can spend more time, doing practice of each limbs.
내가 지금 뭐 지금 봉사라서 저 송알라야 살을래야 참범비서 말. 내가 또도 타야 돼. 나도 찾아야 돼. 다 내가 중요해서 말. 또 빼 납치물 해도.
So like Lama Tsongkhapa did prostration, 100,000 prostration to each of the 35 Buddhas, like that's 35, so 3.5 million, so 35,000. 35,000.
나는 저와 비교가 매력 필요. 매력 있는 게 내가 이거 뭐야? 몽르를 비.
Then again, he made a mandala offering. When he made the mandala offering, you have to rub the mandala base, to sort of clean it, and to clean away, and then to receive the blessing. So you have to rub it. So when he rubbed, he had a wound and then sore, from rubbing that.
어제 되네다 어떤 얘기 딱 냠내지. 더 참아 가린다고 오다 뒤에지. 고마치는 룩시와이나 딱 냠내다 연구요.
So like that, you can put all the practice together like that. Then that practice becomes so proper.
예전에는 나도 자신 보고서 나다 시절에도 자신 보서 이렇게 해도. 저도 자신 보서 이래.
If you want to make a delicious cup of tea, do you know how to make? I mean, do you usually make a delicious tea or no?
No,
you don't make delicious tea.
나도 배회를 usena 오마치, 마르치, 차지. 근데 다 자유거든요.
So what makes the tea delicious? The ingredients, right? So if you have the ingredients, all the ingredients together, like if the cream or milk, whatever you use in the tea, right? If to make it more delicious, maybe you need a cream or cream or milk, and then also if the sugar is missing, then you won't be delicious. So you have the sugar like that. And then in Tibetan, we have like the tea, butter tea. Yeah, it's called the butter tea. And you have to have the tea, of course, to bring the color. And then you mix, the butter and milk and salt. And then it becomes really delicious.
아이 한번 딱 저도 칼라여서 가래. 지젤 칼라여서 가래.
What about delicious food? What's the most delicious food in America?
네, 가지 칼라여는 딱 칼라 신보 용을 대셔 먹으면 되고 그래. 그러니까 테레다 두두다 지시는 용어로 봐.
So and anyway, so to make some kind of delicious food, you have to have all the ingredients, right, and spices, together to make it delicious.
대대치가 돼 가서 더 가가서는 칼라 신보 용 말어 봤어.
So you have to combine them together, right? If you put them separate, then they will not be delicious, right?
제다 당하고서 제다 심마 참에게 팬 가지 팬에게 주시월라 같이 빼나 연락되겠냐면 저도 상관없는 거죠.
So in order to do this practice, to benefit oneself and for this life and the future lives, you have to do the practice of the 7 limbs.
다들 누구는 소소 이래니래 냠내던 데다요. 이래 지야요. 소소가 날래 따져봤는데 마장에 권장가 지워지는 남주 쉬고요다.
So this is the practice that you have to do on a daily basis. So very important. That's why I just emphasize more on this today.
다 드링어도 로로 쳐야 됐다. 고비대로 오래는데 군이랑 가서 something like that. 저 야보래. 내가 드는 감도 양치 로조 말하더라고요.
But what we're going to study today is the tenets, which is a little bit complicated or headache, but and so you can't really think about it on a daily basis, right? But still, it's a knowledge and good to know about that.
We will stop last. I forgot.
Page 9, we finished the valid cognizers and
제마차대로.
네.
제마차는 다 뒤쯤지로라.
제마 되면 돼요. 테마게라.
점일로 점아
세명이 셔봐다. 세마다 세명이 셔서요.
점아
세명이
제보도 넣어서
저거도서. 아주 당고도 제바다 답에 제바리 숨진자다. 이제 제바습니다. 가도 저런데 디워디언들이다. 이제 제바들아 가려가도 제수비 답을 롱셔. 제수 답을 롱데 가려 되게 디워디어라.
아는 것도 재미로돼. 난 도저시다 로리 나라 빼 세워요래. 아니 단다. 근데 드릭거디나 따르고 두주당은 도다 시다 로리 값도 집어넣으래.
So this one about the valid cognizers, right? So we have already, it's very clear in the mind and consciousness and awareness, right? In the text, and then also, His Holiness has explained very, clearly in the compendium of the Buddhist science.
아까지 시발랑하고 원시의 이신이요래.
So in the consciousness, there are two kinds of consciousness, right? Mental consciousness and sense consciousness.
원시 세대 얘도 인심이지 단 통과를 체크받으려야 원시라 그래.
So the sense consciousness, is like the direct perceiver that has to directly come in contact, with its object.
미식 수도월 미식 내가 저걸 수딘지 통과를 미식 맞다고 고통받대. 대 수체고도 와.
So in order for the eye consciousness to see the object, it has to, come in contact with the object. And if the eye consciousness, if the eye the organ doesn't come into contact with the object, then the eye consciousness will not be able to see the object.
아니 원시가 다 내가 저거까지 닦고 안 주고 두고를.
So that if you keep your eyes closed, then you will not be able to see. So your eye organ is not coming in a direct contact with the object. So similar with the ear consciousness. So ear consciousness, the ear organ has to come in contact, with the with its object, like the sound. If you cover the ear, you will not hear the sound.
아 나시 주소라 그 주마다 타니 오지고 타니 뭐 컴퓨터로 오는 것도 주마다 소문도 와.
And same with the nose consciousness, for it to be able to smell, it has to come in contact with the odor, and the smell has to be nearby. If it's like very very far away, or like outside, the house or behind that house, then you will not be able to smell it.
아니 제시가 전혀 인지비 제도 두고 말이나 전혀 더 말이.
And then same with the tongue consciousness. For you to be able to taste, you have the tongue, the taste bud, and has to come in contact with the food.
일단 맨간 가라다 파트는데 심도 가고 싶은데 가서는 좋지도.
Like the hospital food, looks like very delicious. Looks like very delicious, but when you eat, it doesn't have much taste.
어때? 아니 리시가 레자 용war라 리시를 두고 그러 맞으나 용말.
And same with the body consciousness. The body has to come in contact, with the object, for you to feel the roughness and the smoothness.
어떤 지대 네가 초대도 용war라 얘도 우스판 최고라 원신 아들.
And so, in order to experience the objects in this world, the consciousness that has to come in contact with the object are called the sense consciousness.
다때 먹어지 봐. miktam 되고 갈아야 소주 나올 som보다 나한테 잘라 가래 말까가 그러면서 호텔에 있으라 그래.
And so then you are here in the Gompa, and you keep your eyes closed, but you can still imagine your things in your house, right? So that's the mental consciousness.
어제 다 돈도 차단 하나 딱 밑에 오버 당겨. 다 찍으면 오버 맞아 자로.
So if you have all of this, then you have the a complete senses. If you have any one missing, then you don't have a complete sense.
제대로 해봐도 또 찍으면 아니 그 내가 가 제대로 말. 찍는 해봐고.
So if you don't have any of these, then if any one of these is missing, then that will not be able to perform the function of cognizing its object.
텔레 마음하고 요나 문제 세대인 거다.
So it is necessary to have all of them. It's not necessary to have more than that, but it's necessary to have that.
나게 좀 쉬어야 칼라 가르쳐나 그 조조 양거 말이야. 저마는 양거 말이야. 저마가 이제 와.
So if there's a problem with your nose consciousness, nose organs, and then you will not be able to perceive the object with your nose consciousness.
나 그 제시냐 되어야나. 양 그게 좀 도와요나 그각 제시가 그 야도 그 소냐도 말아. 나시.
And so even if you are eating very delicious food, you will not be able to smell. But same with if there's a problem with your tongue consciousness, then even if you eat food, you will not experience any taste.
와다든지 다 가는 것도 저만으로 잡으면 원시의 이시, 원시의 이시를 때문에 그러다.
That's the difference between the sense consciousness and the mental consciousness. So we have already gone through these valid cognizers, right?
아, 대라야. 아니 또 봐도 이시면 원시라 또 봐도 와요 말. 또 봐도 이시래.
So there's the conceptual and non-conceptual, right? And then the conceptual is always the mental consciousness. Sense consciousness cannot be conceptual.
아니 제바시가 도저가가 또 봐랬어. 이시.
Inferential cognition, is all mental consciousness.
아니 난정에 들라가도 도저야 이시래.
And then there's the yogic valid direct cognition, perceiver, also is mental consciousness.
So, am I a direct perceiver if I look at those flowers?
Yeah.
And I see that there's white, yellow, red, pink. But still is conceptuality. So does that mean I'm not a direct perceiver?
똑바로 하거든. 매도 통한대라. 매도 통한대라. 매도 미기 매도 통한데 무슨 매도 똑바로 했어.
그래. 아몽에서는 동안에 또박 내린데 말도 다니잖아. 또바다 이시.
똑바로 해라.
또바 요용거다 이시잖아.
Yeah, first you see it, right? You see it with your consciousness, your eye consciousness, and then the moment you say, "Oh, this is, this is," moment you say this is blue or this is white or this is red flower, then that becomes concept.
이시지.
And after that, then that's already a mental consciousness.
담이 맡으면 저 강하다는 셈샤 될 또바나 그래.
And then when you close, you can see it, right? You can see it, and then when you close your eyes, you can still imagine it. Right? So that's the conception.
담음이 동등했었지.
So the first you see, you see it, and then you realize, oh, that's a blue flower or that's a red flower. And so before you get that concept, thinking that this is a red flower, you see it. First you have to see it, right? So that is a sense consciousness. That's a direct perception.
근데 이시가 다니잖아.
And then after that, then after that, soon after you see it, then there comes soon after that, immediately there comes the mental consciousness or the conceptual.
Only like a baby is a direct perceiver, right? Or somebody very advanced. Because even though I'm perceiving it directly, it's always conceptualized. I always label.
가도 강가 부부도 잘라 미 다시도 가고 나와도 그것도 신기해. 강가 다 이제 담봉 것은 미 통해 오고 와. 이제 이러면 내가 말. 저는 다 상제라는데 담방에서 보지 또 봐요 말아.
Well, I mean, everybody has that direct perceiver. You and even the babies can see it, and then they say, "Oh, this is, a toy. This is that." Like, you can say, right? So because they have that, the direct perceiver, that's why they're able to say that. So like you see first flower, and that's a direct perceiver, and then as soon after that, immediately, I mean, it's very difficult, to say that when is that and when is the direct perceiver and when is the conceptual. So soon after you see it, as you said, that's a flower. Like it's immediate, right? It's like, happening at the same time. It feels like that. But first you have to see that's a process, very subtle. First you see it, and that's a direct perceiver. And then the moment you think that's a flower, and then it already has changed into the mental consciousness. And so it's, I don't know about, like the higher realization, but usually we say the Buddha, everything is direct perceiver for Buddha. Even the mental consciousness is a direct perceiver.
Okay. Okay, 다음. confused. 디코드 찬스 테리코드 줘도 대변한 로드 대나는 좀 빼면 모르겠다.
So there's this the text by His Holiness called the Compendium of Buddhist Science. Is there a book?
Is it the one that's Science and Philosophy in the
I think that one, yeah.
Classics that series?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Maybe there's a different title. What do you call it? What is the title?
They have 2 volumes out.
Yeah, 2 volumes out.
Yeah.
It's Science and Philosophy in the in Indian classics, I think.
먼저 배회를 로서를 배회 배장서 대 제주마라 제도 인지가 님시 못하다.
In Tibetan, that 8 volumes, 8 volumes, but in English there are only 2.
Well, there's only 2 published. They're working on all of
Yeah.
them.
Okay, like that. Okay, but this is more philosophy. 이게 좀더 강가시요래, 좀더 로다 차가시요래. 디날라 제가 로도 심하다. 지금 잠리 차단 또 가시거다.
Then, so not only about the mind, but also talks about the tenets in there, and then talks about the formation of the world, how the world came into existence, and all these things.
Okay, 다
Big Bang, everything.
stop there. Okay, 다 되는 것도 사도 몰라봐 많이 베려 봐 재미지려고 했지. 다 참마 많이 별로도 가르쳤나? 사도 또 많이 봐 몰라봐 많이 봐. 저와 이거 그랬어.
And so this is a non-valid cognizer. So it's the opposite of the valid cognizer, right? This is a definition of the non-valid cognizer is a cognizer that is not new and incontrovertible.
다 대표잖아. 다 들어가나? 이와나 제시해야지. 그랬어.
There are 5 kinds of non-valid cognizers. The first one is subsequent cognizers.
제시해야 돼. 보다 제시에 로시에 대존도 다 생이 올라가는 거.
And so like you can see here, right, the 5, the subsequent cognizers, wrong consciousness, doubt, correct assumption, and inattentive perception.
그래서 여러분들 또 제가 또또 베리 봐서 아니 가지 제시해야 돼. 나 사도 말했어. 몰라 말했어.
And so this is a definition of the subsequent cognizer is a cognizer that realizes what has already been realized. So it's not new. So it's not new. It has already been realized, right? So that's the subsequent cognizer.
간지 당보도 느끼진 이반에 제시 찾아버려.
And so it's in the first you see, first you cognize it, and then from the second moment, it has become subsequent cognizer.
너저 저다 다시 뭐 담아다 대담 보고 지기로. 아니 다 될라 아니 또봐 제시해서 또 메시지니 그랬어.
And then the conceptual, I mean, the subsequent cognizer has 2 kinds: conceptual subsequent cognizer and non-conceptual subsequent cognizers.
라이나 제시지. 먼저 옹기지 전에신 공부를 tension. 어다 제다 단달도 지나서 메토 따지. 담 맞sam잖아. 맞은 티키진 이반 공부들이 요래서 tension 다 될 지시라 그래. 근데 담아도 티키진 이바다고 지시라 그랬어.
This says here the example of the first are remembering consciousness, remembering blue that is generated by being induced by a sense direct perceiver, apprehending blue. So it's just like that, right? So that's like just like you mentioned about seeing the flower. So you see the flower, and then you remember that flower that you saw, right? And then in your mind you think, oh, there's a blue flower, and that's the second, the subsequent. The second moment, and so therefore it becomes a subsequent cognizer. And then it also says the second moment of the inferential cognizer, realizing sound as impermanent. So that's also a subsequent cognizer.
아주도 베개는 내가 깔보라 그래 깔보라 또. 아 저는 느끼지만 내 까보라 그래 대신 괜히 담보 까보라 납살 되게 세마차 그래. 이전에 쭉 가지는 내 까보라 그가 제시해야 돼.
And so, like you see, the flower, right? The white. So it's, oh, this is a white. And then next time you remember, right? You remember, oh, that's a white. So you're remembering something that you have already seen before, right? So when you remember that this is a white, that already is a subsequent cognizer.
아니 산직 데리도 상인한테 제발은 대 말해 산직 사도 그래.
But for Buddha, everything's new, right? So he sees today and he sees tomorrow, and that's also still new.
나도 또야 돼 세망가마 되게 까보통일로 되게 셰파 되게 네바 마냥 될 때네 또 그러자 셰파 마냥 봤어요.
Then for us, the difference, for us is that what we have seen before, that the potential of seeing that hasn't completely degenerated yet, and then you see it again with the same potential. And so therefore it's called the subsequent cognizer.
다들 정말 다 이번에 시절로도 주변에 봐 로시에 있으니 난 내가도 로시 자리다.
And now the second one, it says the definition of wrong consciousness is a cognizer that engages its object incorrectly. So engaging in its object incorrectly.
어제 다 되긴 세제로 그 때라 또 발로시 또 메로시 니시.
And this also has divided into two, conceptual wrong consciousness and non-conceptual wrong consciousness.
저도 다타발 상무데.
Do you think the sound is permanent or impermanent?
내가 상고 말해. 다 이나 감독 옆에나 하나 다도 잡아 다도 한게요. 랑 다도 잡아 한게요. 다도 잡아 정게요.
But so sometimes we might think, right? So some people might think the sound is permanent, right? Or like if not, then at least like we see the self as existing, by itself from its own side, right? You see the self exist from its own side.
다시 이때 많이 봐. 이실로도 봐. 신절로도 다 신절로도
So but the self doesn't exist from its own side, right? So we think self exists from its own side. So that's the wrong consciousness.
제가 딱 가도 딱 틱장이노 가지는 가도 강사마데 인 강체와데 인삼 대 노르치 딱 효라만 가요. 록시데 됐다.
So because of that wrong conception, then we make all these mistakes. So whatever we see, we think that's correct. Whatever we do, we think that's correct. And because of that, and then we make all the mistakes.
어제 고도왔다 남자들도 저러다 록실해야돼. 록실해야돼 감지 노르조 선택이 하나 노르조 something that 록셔서.
So the wrong consciousness is something that are mistaken, right? So whatever mistaken conceptions that we have, ideas, mistaken thoughts that we have, is the wrong consciousness.
더 하는 게 단데 나 다치 다니 나와서 잡고서 대 다와치 미시면 다른 한계로 어때 록실해서.
So like this, the example of the first is the conception apprehending that sound is permanent. And then example of second are the visual sense consciousness, in which one moon appears as two moons.
근데 제다들도 용을 빼는 거 미식 가고 그는 산 같은 강가 차는데 대 강한 노르고다 돼. 간진 추신 듣던 록시 제단들 안에지 나야란 처바당 셰야란 처바당 또 셰 듣다 뭐 그래.
And so then when we wear tinted glasses and look at the snow, it will appear as blue or a gray or whatever, right? And so it's mistaken. So because of that, we think that's it's a blue or gray, but actual snow is not, right? It's white like that. And so there's a mistaken consciousness that comes because of the appearing object or because of the apprehending objects and so forth.
뭐 쉬운데 찾으려고 하네.
How do you know?
아니 다 얘네 대som입니다. 다 대som자. 다 대까지 록시대 갖고 록시대지.
So you understood the wrong consciousness, right?
아니 나도 단다 너라 용도 강 록시대 용 거다.
All our problems come from the wrong consciousness.
나도 지 소소 강에 봐 지 대레 랩삼 대인 바삼 대체람도 모두 계셔 셰다 남주 때다가 록시진에 다 록시대기 질을 주는 내가 전에 그건 투대.
Because of this wrong consciousness, then we get all these mistaken made. So like the way we speak, even the way we speak, right? We think, oh, I'm speaking in a proper way, but then it doesn't become proper for some people, maybe proper for somebody, but not proper for others. So even the way you look at it, look at the people, the way you look, people think that you're angry or you're unhappy or something like that. Because of that, then other people get the wrong ideas and so forth. So these are all because of the wrong consciousness.
다 선바데 대som세대 람타지 타니도 되는지 대som은 생이.
And the third one is the definition of the doubt. It says a mental factor that by its own power hesitates with regards to true alternatives.
나디 코드주에 아니 이진남시다 아니 좋아도 아니 대som 말했을 때 타니도 도와다 람타지 타니도 도와 말해 대som도 도와네 디 바퀴서 내서.
And then it says the mental consciousness and an accompanying feeling that have the five concomitants with doubt are not that which by its own power wavers with regards to the two alternatives, because they waver with regards to the two alternatives by the power of doubt.
다들 시미시고 다 대래 다 대som을 기회가 갔나? 근데 대som 사주다 따다 임바시 엔지도 데미지 찬이도 소멸해서.
Then it's divided the three kind of doubts. Is doubt tending towards the factual, doubt tending doubt not tending towards the factual, and doubt that is equal to both sides.
답변아 단대 자세는 남중도 ten이 tan이자다 가지나 자다 범바 되자다 되글랍되거와.
That example of the first is this doubt that think that maybe sound is impermanent. So that we always use this in a term, example like the sound.
다 저도잖아. 정하시되 여살에 좀 타마시고 좀 두고요. 호텔에야 된지 대섬세. 영하시 여살에
So like, you can use other example like says, oh, there is a past and future life. Let's say, like we talk about past and future life in the practice, in the Dharma, right, teachings. So he says, oh, maybe there is a past, maybe there is a past and future life. So that's doubt tending towards the factual. You're not sure, right? You still have a doubt. You're not sure whether the sound is impermanent or not, but you think, oh, maybe it is impermanent. So, so because the sound is impermanent, therefore, it becomes a factual doubt. And the example of the second is a doubt that think maybe sound is permanent. So the sound is permanent, but sound is not permanent, right? So it's doubt and not tending towards the factual because it's not fact that the sound is permanent. So you're not sure, you're still thinking maybe, right? Maybe the sound is permanent, right? And then the third one, is that's equal to both sides. It's like maybe thinking the sound is maybe permanent, maybe impermanent, maybe permanent. So not sure which one it is. So you can't make a decision, on which side it is. But maybe thinking both of them. How can this benefit in our practice?
You can
apply that to your Dharma practice. I think, oh, if I practice Dharma, then maybe it is beneficial. Maybe practicing Dharma is beneficial. And that's the factual, doubt tending towards factual. But you're not sure. Maybe it's not, maybe it's, you're not sure that it is definitely beneficial to practice Dharma, but you think, oh, practice Dharma may be beneficial. And then, you might think, oh, I have done so many practices, but, it doesn't seem to be benefiting much. Maybe there's no benefit in practice now. Maybe there's no benefit in practice now. So that's like non-factual. But then sometimes you say, oh, sometimes it seems like beneficial, sometimes it doesn't look like beneficial. And then maybe it's beneficial, maybe it's not beneficial, like that. It can be on both. So you can apply in practice like that.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, it's a good question about the definition of doubt, because just to be clear, it says the definition of doubt is a mental factor that by its own power hesitates with regard to the alternatives. And then it goes on to say that a mental consciousness and accompanying feeling that has the five concomitants with doubt are not which, by its own power, waver with regard. So the fact that it says it's a mental factor, then is it the doubt that's part of the 6 root delusions? Is that the doubt we're talking about?
That's what the semjung is what other semjung the semjung tamajung ajina then the zanyu to ginagi semjung the rest. Yeah, I think so. Not 100% sure, but I think so. What are the 6 root delusions?
Attachment, anger, pride, doubt, ignorance.
Yeah, so this is a delusion. It is the doubt is a delusion.
Because it says it's a mental factor.
Yeah.
So what does it mean by its own power? So it's not a main mind then.
Rodogi.
라도 수수 something. 전바지 제네 코디션으로 만 코로나랑 something 대차주.
By its own power, means by itself, not forced by others.
나 저랑 내가 전에 밥고 전에 그 친구 때려나 밥 그런 거 지지 말아. 저랑 제원데 굿받치도 돼서 그러지.
And so, like, if you do the job and then Bob says, "Oh, Jennifer did it," so it's not Bob who did it; it's Jennifer, like that.
내가 된적이 아니 대좀 변화 있지. 대좀도 두대주 이지시 받다가 아니 뒤 초받아도 대좀 그런 거 대좀도 여와인다. 그 두대주에도 봐 안에 누구를 말 그런 거는 조지 말했어. 그런 거는 참 작은 말했어. 이진합니다. 대좀도 두대주 이진 한번 씹어지 여러 대다. 근데 띵거주 도가 대도 다니고 그러나 또 대좀 뒤에 답지 도가져 오늘 그런 것도 또 말했어. 대좀 세도 코로나
대좀 말했어, 뭐라?
대좀 말했어. 대좀 세도 코로나 다 집어 있고 그랬어.
So the accompanying, the mental factor, that's the five concomitants, that's accompanying mental factor, right? And with the doubt, has to be doubt, right? Usually it has to be doubt, but in this case, it's not because of its own power. So the feeling doesn't become doubt because by its own power.
대든 거죠. 아니 그 샘주나 큰 거죠. 샘주 여러 봐. 옛날 그 근데 좀 샘대 아니 대좀지 따지 박치서만 샘도 코나 또고 자기 또고 말했어.
So the accompanying mind and accompanying the mental factor, like the feeling, is taken by the doubt as a doubt, but not by itself. Not by itself. So by itself, it's not a doubt.
Okay. How are you guys? Mark, do you looking at that? I saw you don't.
I understand. I'm still thinking about conceptuality.
Okay, good.
So, like the mind has to like, let's say I'm walking, right? The whole point of evolution is this is a danger, this is a snake, this is a hole, this is food, I can eat it, right? So what I'm trying to understand is, so if something is a non-mistaken cognizer of the flower, to me, it's just a mindlessness. It's like, what is it exactly? Like, because the definition is circular. It says a direct perceiver, non-mistaken cognizer free from conceptuality, but it doesn't adequately explain precisely what is non-mistaken. Does that mean that I visually see the colors properly, that before I even, what it is exactly? How does it fit into emptiness?
내 대마토 나만 기시하고 말했어. 그래 저랑 통화대 대따다 인바했나? 이렇게 되었어.
It's a non-mistaken. I mean, here we're not talking about like true existence or existing from its own side. Nothing like that, right? So of course, from that point of view, then everything we see is mistaken. But we're talking about just the ordinary sense power, right? Sense and consciousness. So when you're seeing the white as a white, then that's a non-mistaken. If you see the white, it's a white, but you see it as a green, then that's mistaken.
Yeah, that's obvious.
That's what it means by non-mistaken here in this context. So when you see the white as a white, that's mistaken or non-mistaken?
White is non-mistaken.
Yeah, exactly. So do you see this a white? This is a white. This is a white. Do you see it white or blue? You see white, right? Yeah, so that's not mistaken.
나도 나다가 그냥 집어 나서는 까오도 그냥 세워둔 거래.
But somebody with the jaundice, right? Jaundice?
Jaundice.
Jaundice?
Yeah.
And somebody with jaundice might see it's yellow.
나도 저야 근데 특별한 뭐 보여 그래. 한 가로 나일란 쳐봐다, 셰일란 쳐봐다, 주연 쳐 모두도 같이 뭐 여러 뭐 그래.
That's from the person's side, right? Not because his eyes sees that way, but because of his disease made him see like that.
I mean, obviously, the point is that that's good. That's a starting point. It's kind of okay, but you're seeing something, directly, right? Without labeling. Okay, wonderful. So then what?
The moment you label?
No, never mind labeling. So obviously that's the goal. The goal is, if you're reading this, is to not label, right? You shouldn't label. So where is that?
But you will label it. You will label
it.
If you don't label it, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Label
if you don't call it flower, then where's the flower?
Yeah, that's my question.
No, you have to level. No, that's not the goal. I think you are mistaken with the goal, thinking that you can't level. You can level. But then one moment you level, then it becomes, well, conceptual.
But then you're not supposed to be valid. It has to be non-conceptual.
그래서
Yeah,
By
yeah, yeah.
definition, it does.
yeah. 똑같은이죠.
Yeah, you have both.
It's conceptual.
Yeah, there is a conceptual and non-conceptual both.
Cognizant is free from conceptuality.
But you're talking about a
Direct
direct.
perceiver.
What you said is valid. Is there such thing as a valid?
The direct perceiver, yes. For the direct perceiver, it has to be non-conceptual. The Muslim law,
Yeah,
for the direct perceiver. That's why, like, when you first see it, with the eye consciousness, that's a direct perceiver.
But even the definition of a direct valid cognizer.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, same. Yeah, so if you're just talking about the valid cognizer, then there's a both concept and non-concept. But if you say direct valid cognizer, then there has to be a non-conceptual.
I'm just wondering is, after the chase, is non-conceptuality related to a direct perception? What's the relationship of non-conceptuality to the direct perception of emptiness? That's my real question.
돈이 무슨 또 배셔봤다. 아니, 동면이라 가르쳐 버렸어.
돈이 뭐 또 배셔봤다.
그거 동맥이 셔봐도 가르쳐 버렸어.
돈이 시바나 돈이 또 배셔봐 고 말해. 단단 안 좋고 뭐시가 돈이 시바래. 돈이 또 배셔봐 말해.
So the direct, the realization, the direct realization of emptiness, and the non-conceptual consciousness, right? So, you don't have to realize emptiness directly to have the non-conceptual consciousness. Like my, eye consciousness that sees the flower as white as a white, it's a direct perceiver, non-conceptual. It's a non-conceptual consciousness, but it's not. I'm not realizing emptiness directly.
나는 나가도 티카서 나중에서 나도 나중에서 타임도. 나중에서 또 미시 받잖아.
And so, like, when you talk about the yogic valid direct perceiver, that's all non-conceptual. Yogic.
So, at the moment of emptiness, you have to be in the non-conceptual
Yes.
aspect of your mind.
When you realize that so when you realize it directly, the emptiness, then it has to be non-conceptual.
It's also worth mentioning that this is just kind of a survey of the mind and mental factors in the context of tenets. There's not a lot of explanation here. You have to go.
You have to study big one. Okay. Ade teta ta. Rael levi shirik tento. Geshe Tenley.
Okay. So can we move on?
유치도 마보시 단대 체를 랑면 된 그도어 계속 말. 근데 라일 레비 시리 텐데 라일 레바레스. 날로바된 되게 그래서 이거.
Now the next is the correct assumption. Correct assumption. It says the conceiving cognizer, a conceiving, right? This cognizer that occurs with what is correct but is controvertible in conceiving its object.
대대 디오들라 단다. 나와대 나나만 되긴도 되니까도 주마치 된대. 공원이다.
Okay, so there's lots of explanation on that. There's many divisions. Then there's an explanation of each division, right? The reason, without reason, contradictory reason, and indefinite reason, and so forth, right? And so then the next one is the inattentive and the perception. So maybe you can just go through these first for the next class.
공원이다.
Homework.
저도 로네 저도 드바티칸 기조와.
Study them, read them, try to understand. If not, then bring up the questions.
근데 라일 말로 담부터 버리지. 간다부터 올라가도 올라가도 시다 담부터 오는데 그 말로 왔다 다래 왔어. 근데 라일라. 라일라 세대.
So, like it says,
it's either raila
but it's controvertible, right? Controvertible, but it's controvertible to its object, right? What does it mean? Like, so you said, yeah, the sound is impermanent. Because somebody said sound is impermanent. No? If you say because somebody said sound is impermanent, that's not a good reason, right? And but it is correct. It is correct that the sound is impermanent. But the reason you gave, is controvertible. So that's controvertible. That reason is, in other words, it's not correct reason.
It doesn't realize.
Yeah. Just because somebody said sound is permanent, impermanent, that's why you think sound is impermanent. That's why you say sound is impermanent. It's not correct.
Okay. That's you what the Nalaman was. Nalamaji, Nawaji. 아니 망해봐 가려야 한번 오지요. 저서 트위다 되나 이게 트위하고 근데 미치기도 오지실라나 저 파프이는데 저 칼라 뭐지 라임다 생각도 어때 가만 망겠는데 용
So the inattentive and of course perception is like, of course, you're engaged in something, and then on the sides, like say you're very engrossed in the TV program. You're watching TV program and your attention is all there. But it says you hear somebody saying something. Your attention, but because your attention is mostly on that, you hear, but you can't grasp exactly what the person is saying, right? And then later, oh, did you say something like that? You go like that. So that's inattentive perception.
And make zoom the lava charge make up the end doesn't shit up us. That koyo was karema.
Yeah, so it's apprehending the sound with your ear consciousness at the time when you're so focused on some attractive visual object.
Okay. So
when you're attracted, to a very attractive, when you're focused on a very attractive visual object, and at that time you grasp the sound, right? You apprehend the sound with your ear consciousness, but you can't exactly figure out what's the sound about. Like that. So anyway, so these two is going to be your homework.
And that is just a lot of
the questions.
The Lord and the Mambo should do it. I think I'm to get to somebody. Men then got came maybe some to US and always
too much to go through them here together, so you can just go through individually and then bring up the questions.
Okay, you guys got it? Okay, last question in that. Who's going to give answer? Yeah, you guys. Margaret, you have? Who did the homework? I don't want to you just said. You just, I'm thinking right now, not just you did homework. Answer from that. Okay, who's? Deborah, yeah?
How about the homework from last week, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
What the homework?
it was to just a minute. Find it. To find out what a threefold investigation is, which was used as part of the explanation of realizing. Let me find just a minute.
You got it. Yeah, I got it. Okay, give the three.
Okay, the three are so you can you investigate by either your own direct valid cognition or
Okay.
through inference, through reasoning, or seeing if the statement is in line with what the Buddha has taught at other times.
That's all.
Mhm.
Okay, who has that? Any other people have? Margaret, you have? You don't have? Okay. Now you guys. Jennifer?
I'd say something similar to what Deborah said, but I think so what it means is that the reason is free from harm by or contradiction by the three prime cognizers. So if it teaches about something like a manifest phenomenon, then your direct perception doesn't contradict that, and it's not, or if it was a slightly hidden phenomenon, it's not contradicted by an inference by fact. And then, but where I think I would depart slightly from Deborah is that if it's something that's very hidden, like in a scriptural text, that it is it's not harmed by other an inference by belief, so that there are other scriptural support that doesn't contradict it.
Well,
I had something I found it described as investigation, but usually I hear it as wisdom. It's investigation by listening to teachings and by contemplating and then by meditating. You could think of that as investigation, but usually we talk about it as the wisdom that is derived from those. So I thought maybe it's not really the right.
No, not from this context.
yeah.
The topic for us.
고생고생해.
고성고성 실업,
내 말 대가리.
소중기 실업, 몸중기 실업,
내 말 대가리.
몸중기 실업.
대가리.
That's a different.
그러니까
I have the same as Deborah and Jennifer. The first one is the one I read, but they use the word evident phenomenon, using evidence. And the second one is either they said hidden or slightly obscure phenomena, which is using the logic syllogism. And the third one is very obscure, very hidden phenomena. And that's like she said, the Buddha said, with the authority, somebody authority or scripture. Or and then some example I heard it easy to understand for me was like birthday. Birthday is the obscure, a very obscure phenomena because it's relied on like mother or birth certificate.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Good.
Good. Yeah, good. Okay, Mark.
I was still recovering, so I don't.
Did he execute? You really went to the walk too 1 week ago. You know, execute that. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I think you guys do pretty good. I think Jennifer said that the shut up tiny children don't know the Bob let it marry. A cheta. I don't know if you got that. Hong you temperature like near to them and the woman passage. Tiny the jar.
So yeah, so it's just a term that that Jennifer uses more correct, but what Deborah said and Rika said is same also. So there's no contradiction, a contradiction from the direct perceiver, to the things that are obvious or evidence.
Then Hong
Evident.
then Hong you said it. They cover them, Naporana, Mavorana. And they cook out to no. Cheddar Tong is to me now.
But this is obvious, right? So this is obvious, and obvious thing, and when you see it with your direct cognizer, and you see it as a white, right? But if you say, "Oh, this is black," then that's, that harms, to your. When it's when it's a black, when it's a white, if you say it's a black, then that's harmed by your direct perceiver.
Reporting no to us.
So it contradicts to your perception, right?
Yeah, I got all. I'm going to choose a good body. Jabatame no. And the choose a good choose a telete and a part. Ravalo temperature and the Jabatame no my pass.
So no contradiction, from the inferential cognizer, to those suddenly and slightly hidden objects.
They don't know that. And you go to the tape and a date abarachas. Cardana, Shivarlana, but they could sometimes know some Shivana, Matama Guru.
And so it says like the sound is permanent because it's a product. Then that's contradicting. Yeah? So that's contradicted by the inferential cognizer, right? Because the sound, if it is a product, then it can't be permanent. It has to be impermanent.
And there's sometimes comic comment, of course, sometimes Shivana Mataba some thing of do.
You can't. It is not obvious, right? You can't see it directly. The sound is impermanent. You have to think, and you have to apply the reason, to think why the sound is impermanent.
I don't know, I would have been but it's not 10 out of the Tanico cars. Send the mother, the choose a coach that they will have.
What's the addition to Korea?
I'll addition going to Martini. I should go to that choosing the team, but that conjure.
So the example you gave, Rika, is for the extremely hidden one, right?
They choose the coach. They choose the coach.
That maybe goes more with the slightly hidden.
헬레라고 하고라 아마트야면 뭐 쇼라나 도초주라 그러와.
So that can be easily, understood, right? If either mother can say, "Taina ngada report ane hago ayo marate." Chiki lab gar mas report
내가 그
ane.
땅에 랑이지고 왔다 가지.
Yeah. Dina 일단은 ngada
야,
lungi chuwas there.
이거 봐이 놓치다는 거네. 시기도 저거야.
I
아들 삐야.
think you're right.
아들 already. Yeah.
You can't prove that by reasoning, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
You guys born on this because like that, and you can't put a reason. It has to be said by somebody, right? And then you have to, or it has to be written on a certificate, birth certificate, and then you can believe on that.
나 대 많이 배웠나? 대ing이 되는 거라고 봤어. 어디지? 다 현대 꼴이다 돼서 다 가서 나 득받잖아. 되게 동화하고 있어. 다 현대 꼴이야. 당 수직 빠도 말아.
So so like the sort of the extremely hidden, it's like if you do bad, and you will have suffering. If you do bad, if you create negative karma, you experience suffering. So that you can't really prove, right?
아, 근데 전바 동안에 로션 저걸 세도 다 피션의 권제요. 본지 참 말아.
So like if you practice generosity, you will be wealthy in the future lives.
아들 가거나 전바 동안에 로션 저거 말에 세상에 된게 이체다가 로션이나 된게 돼요.
And so, because there is this scripture that supports, or that states that by practicing generosity you will be wealthy, And but if you find a text that says by practicing generosity you will not be wealthy, then you can say it contradicts to that.
아니 레 먹게 와서나 저 동안 요거 말에 세상에 된게 이체다가 로션 여와이나 아니 나 대차로 그러와.
Then same with the reasoning I gave earlier, like if you create negative karma, you will not suffer. If you can find a statement from a scripture, then that says that if you create a negative karma, you will not experience suffering.
한테 루즈 보면 다 원나 대고만 원나 저 동안 와다 가르치는 용어도나 가르치는 용어나 내가지 노는 용어서 대 고타나 안에 그 롱도를 바꿔간 되고도.
Then not only the scripture, but not only because scripture say that because you did bad, and so from the bad action comes the bad result, like that. You can give it reasoning also like that.
에 자세가 이나 감소 모타샤니 단단 노네 티켓이나 가진 저거를 단단 노네 저한테 티켓을 알아서.
So like you drove in a wrong way, and then you got ticket from the cop, and you said, "Oh, why did you get a ticket? Because you drove in the wrong way."
나도 칼라스는 나기도 같이 날 칼라기 사다 놓는 그 제직 넣는 저도 용도와.
So like when we, sometimes we get sick from eating kind of food, right? Why did we get sick? It's from eating wrong food.
나도 저 라파도.
Those again still our growth reasonings.
아 참으려잖아. 아니 점에 거는 저 동안 연속 제가나 다단도 배낭 가서 샤시고도 배낭 가서 배낭 실로대 등에 시고도 좋습니다. 가르치는 게 없나? 아니 점에 와서 변제 걸라 또 제송을 해서.
So then the hidden, the extremely hidden, is like if you create negative karma, then you'll fall into the lower realm, like the birds and the insects outside there. They are born like that because they create negative karma, like that.
아 오늘 대말 대내기 제어다 이게 안에 이체사 롱이 아무나 빠지 내고다 대말세시.
So so if that's not true, then you have to find a scripture or reasoning to prove that they're not born there because of negative karma.
심바도는 로션 조금 말했어야지. 야만은 조금 말했어야 돼. 룬다 리파 안되게 옆에 녀봐야나. 심바도 로션 조금 써야 돼. 그다 제가서 맞다고.
And then again, if you find a scripture which says that by practicing generosity you will have a wealth, and by practicing morality you will be born, you will have a higher birth, and so forth, like that. If you find a text that says it's not that, then you can say, "Oh, that's wrong."
Okay. Does make sense?
I think so. So it's just like it's.
You have a doubt.
No. Just that-
Is it a factual doubt?
With respect, you could say, okay, well, the Bible says that the birds and animals are God's creation. So But I mean, it,
제가 될 누구도 그 God creation 될 누구도
그거는 뭐야?
그도 누구 맞아 나도 근데
But,
그들은
you know, but in Buddhism, right? In Buddhism, you know, if we say it's created by God, right? Does it harm to our reasoning?
yeah, so that's where you would.
그들을 저는 될까지 내가 맞아 이거
It can also harm to their reasoning too.
다른 것도 시라미 빌려야 안에 남대도 빠져야 빵을 시라미 봐봐도 남대 빵 같은 데를 봐 누구도
Like, you know, the suffering, right? You know, the suffering, you know, the problems, everything is created by God. So suffering is created by God. The death, a shooting, everything is created by God, right? That harms, right? And they will say, no, shooting was not created by God. They will not say that, right? They will not accept that. Just like the Baba Shika, says, will not say that the true path, is to be abandoned, right? But, then you do contradict when it says, a delusion, referring to the true path, is to be abandoned. So therefore, that should be abandoned too, right? So it contradicts in that way also, like that. Just like that, you can contradict, to what they said in the Bible also.
Okay, you got a little bit. Okay, do you guys answer this question? Because time, but it's the
The other question about that, huh? The other question?
Yeah, the other question was if on page 5 it says that although a Buddhist superior has abandoned all suffering and its origins without exception, it does not contradict that he still has true sufferings in his continuum.
Yeah.
This is because he has abandoned every single delusion that refers to true suffering, therefore is considered to have abandoned sufferings. And so Geshe's question was, then if he's abandoned every single delusion that refers to true paths, has he abandoned true paths?
Yes.
Evra, you do answer that?
Well, I don't think my answer is very good. It's that from that perspective of the person who's experiencing it, yes, because he doesn't experience anything anymore. There's no more experience. So he's abandoned it. It's been abandoned.
And then
Abandon the true path?
Yeah, because there's no more experience.
Well, we're talking about a Buddha with remainder, right?
yeah, remember, yeah.
So we're talking about Buddha with remainder.
Okay. Oh, that's harder. I don't know how to think about that one.
Okay, Bob.
Well, the only answer I came up with for that was that the path is what is to be abandoned and what is to be adopted. So the delusion refers to the part of the path that is to be abandoned. The part of the path is to be adopted is still to be adopted.
람데는 니어레스. 람저 람데는 방자한테 니어레스. 람데는 람자한테 방자한테 방자레스.
라자가 람델라 미비 뇨모빵 말해.
So the path that is to be adopted, right, has to be adopted, right? Can't be abandoned. But what about the delusion, referring to the path, to be adopted?
Thinking
So don't you abandon that delusion? The delusion referring to the path, that's to be adopted. Is abandoned or not?
there is no delusion referring to the path to be adopted.
So what about the true the sub-grasping, true grasping ignorance, right? Grasping at the path to be adopted as existing from its one side. Isn't that delusion?
Yeah.
So do you abandon that?
Yeah, you have to abandon that.
And do you abandon the true path to be adopted?
Yeah.
And then there's nothing to be adopted then. So you have to even have to abandon the path to be adopted. What is the use of working so hard for so many years? Abandon.
Okay, Jennifer. What do you answer?
Yeah, I was all over the place, but I finally, I came to the thing that I don't think the reason applies. Because the object is,
You can, what do you want me to explain that?
the, I think the reason doesn't apply because the object, true paths is not to be abandoned and, yeah. It just doesn't make sense to me to say that, any delusion that takes true paths as an object, if you abandon that delusion, you abandon true paths. It's, and if you have a deluded mind that takes true paths,
Yeah. They may not carpano. Do the bond, do the human portion like Modo, is it terrible? Do the bond, tell me human pass on good chavalaso.
is the object, if you have a deluded mind that takes true paths as its object, then then the object is,
Togger,
not
Sanjay
true
do the
paths.
bond, tell me human portion like Modo.
The reason that Bhavashka is giving is right. So Buddha superior abandoned the true because of true suffering, right? The reason is because he abandoned the delusion that's referring to true suffering. So if you abandon the delusion that refers to the true suffering, then you abandon the true suffering, right? So the reason why you abandon true suffering is because you abandon the delusion referring to the true suffering. You can say you abandon the true path because you abandon the delusion referring to the true path. The same way.
Yeah, I don't accept that reasoning.
But that they won't touch it. Sanjay do the bond.
Then if you don't accept that reason, then you give me another reason. Why did Buddha superior? How did Buddha superior abandon the true suffering?
Because he do the your was.
Delusion.
Do the your do the bond was.
But he's saying that he has a true suffering, right? The Buddha with the remainder, right? So
Right.
Buddha superior with the remainder,
Yeah.
and has a true suffering, but has abandoned the true suffering, right? So he has a true suffering, and he has abandoned the true suffering. The reason why he says true, he doesn't contradict because he has abandoned the true suffering because he has abandoned the delusion referring to that true suffering.
I just don't think you can apply that logic to true paths because the object,
You apply it like you finished second grade, so you abandoned second grade in school, right? So
No,
I think it's the word path. It's like you've already learned what it is. So yeah, you abandon it because it's no longer needed, right? Is that correct or not?
paths are what to be adopted. I mean, if you think a Buddhist superior has abandoned true paths?
Well, if it's already been adopted, what's he doing with it? It's past tense, it's already adopted.
So when you go to the second grade, you abandon the first grade knowledge.
You abandoned being in the first grade, or you wouldn't be, it's semantics. It's like this little subtle.
second grade, first grade, the second grade, the logic wrong. Lono dharma.
Yeah, what is the second grade and first grade? It's the knowledge.
Okay, anyway, it's not become. Okay, Rika, do you have any answers?
I knew much more clear 3 weeks ago.
No, you got.
The same as Jennifer, it doesn't make sense with the reasoning using syllogism. Because, it was clear before, because this is what I read, the syllogism, you have to prove the
Subject,
object.
predicate, and the reasoning.
Yeah, and that's.
And the sign.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Makes sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Anyway, the secret answer is not that. Okay, the Jennifer she like do. The chije do it. The chawa ye, she don't chawa mess. Chawa tije gonna. It do the gonna chije do na do the mi chawa. She don't chawa mess. Chije tamola. Do the bawa inde do the gonna so. Do the gonna chije do the ina kola mi yo kopa mi cha. She don't macha.
Yeah. So what didn't make sense to you is correct. No, you talked about the subject, right? The subject, predicate, and so here the subject, is the true suffering, and the true suffering, the predicate is the true suffering, is abandoned, right? Because he abandoned the delusion referring to the true suffering, and so the subject, it's correct, for that subject, but it's not necessary to be correct for every subject. So the other subject can be the true path, right? So in a sense that the true path, is a different subject, right? So true path is abandoned because he has abandoned the delusion referring to the true path, and it's not, it's no provision. You can say no provision because the subject.
Would it be reason not established or no provision?
No provision.
지제들 잡아야 돼. 시다 잡아야 돼. 지제들. 주제를 한다 그러고. 주제대가 잡아야 돼. 시다 매스. 주제가를 그대로 왔어.
Yeah, so there's no provision, to the others, but there is a provision, to that subject, What's that subject?
True suffering.
Exactly. So true suffering is that subject. So it has provision to that subject, but there's no provision to all the subjects. Yeah, so that's the term that we use in the debate. This is to that subject, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to all the subjects. Provision is like that. It's not written in the text, it's just from just debating with each other. Yeah, so you can't say adopted, and then there's no part to be abandoned and part to be adopted. Yeah, so because the Bhavashikans, they're very highly realized also.
Okay. Okay, then now you got clear, right? Do you got clear? Deborah, are you clear? Okay, Margaret,
Yeah, more so than before.
more than before?
Well, I'm more clear than I was earlier, so that was helpful.
Okay,
Geshe,
yeah, Margaret.
yeah, could Damchuk, could you repeat that word? Did you say pervasion? The reasoning?
Yes, pervasion, yeah.
Pervasion.
But the term,
But
perversion is, but just like it makes sense,
Okay, pervasion. All right.
Perversion,
Okay.
yeah, that's the term. There's no perversion, means that, if it is that, doesn't have to be that.
Okay, thank you.
If it's that, doesn't have to be this, like that.
달 주마고 홍보도 하고 소와 단데 이제다 하나만 이제라서 말로 될라 아니 오바를 나서 주마도 된 돌리셔야다.
So like he says, the sound is prominent, and you say not established, right? And if the sound is prominent because it's product, then he says no pervasion. That means like if it is, and if it is a product, then it's not necessary to be prominent. You got that, Margaret?
Okay, good. Let's homework finish. Okay, come again at once. Next homework, you got it right? You got it, guys? Next homework. If you any not understand the
So you read through the correct assumption and the inattentive perception, and read through that, and then if you don't have any, if you didn't understand anything, then bring up question from that.
Okay.
That's the homework for next week. Yeah, so there's so many to just go through. If we go through each and every of them, then we'll not finish even next week. So you can just read on your own and then bring out the questions.
Okay. Okay, Mark. Next week you're no excuse to I'm not gonna come.
You're gonna break my hand. Oh.
No, you can maybe other I was very busy to I have to work all the time.
We're saying read through like the non-valid cognizers.
Yeah, telling you like what each of them
No, just the correct assumption and inattentive perception.
Okay, so just.
Okay.
The fourth and fifth non-valid cognizer.
Okay, everyone got it? 마모쇼요. 근데 나는 시에는 니마 단다 누나치 시에요.
Yes, there's a lot to talk about. If we go to that, we can talk more weeks.
Okay. Okay. Then we stop. Thank you guys. Linda, you are very early. Especially I think you are very light. And the Sunday. She's joining from near the Singapore. What country, you know, Jan in the market?
Brunei.
No, but where's Brunei? Market, you know, maybe.
Yeah, it is north of Philippines, right?
No, south.
South of
South.
Philippines? Okay.
Yes, south.
South of Philippines, but
Okay.
like across Malaysia.
Yes.
Yeah, Malaysia, close to Malaysia.
Oh, okay. Anyway, it's wonderful
welcome.
I thought you someone live here. Your very great effort to join very far away. It's like today, this text is very complicated. Maybe you don't understand what's going on, but you get influence. Then Sunday and also before I start that, talk about surveillance practice. It'll be like useful to daily practice. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'll stop. John have to go 1.5 hours. But not Ed. Ed have to go 1.5 hours. And Mark have to go. What? Okay.
So page 39, Thanksgiving Mandala offering. Aji Paki Jaking make a crown, re-rubbing Jini Jigan Padi, Sange Jingu make a wadi, Drokun Namdajing Lacher Pashu, Jetson, Namekute Rapenchi, Namka Nature, Musan the bedroom and Sunji, Drawing himself to make you J. Yedam Guru Ratnamanda Yatayami. Page 43, the short long life prayer for His Holiness. And that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Chenrezig remain in life till samsara's end. Page 49, the short long life prayer for Lama Zobripate. You who uphold the subduers moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading mind to glorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes the magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. 57, prayer dedication. For this virtue, may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may where unborn arise and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Say ma.
Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Good morning.
Good night.
Okay. You guys just get ready to bed.
Reminding everybody to medicine Buddha, Guru Puja tomorrow here at 7, both in person and on Zoom.
Or you guys just are ready to go back. Some people have to go 1.5 hours. Some have to just jump their feet.